It was a night of 1974. New York City was quiet, the sky a deep black, and most of the world was asleep. But underneath the world's tallest buildings, a small group of men was on the mission. One that had taken weeks of planning, secrecy, and risk. World Trade Center was still under construction, while one small group of people split into two teams. One headed for the North Tower and the other, where the real action was, made their way up to the South Tower. Among them was Philippe Petit, a fearless dreamer with ideas so crazy that it seemed impossible. But this wasn't a moment for the grand plans yet. First, they had to get to the top without being caught. Fate played its part when a freight elevator operator misunderstood an order, letting them go way higher than expected. They were aiming for 82nd floor, but somehow they made it to the 104th. Either way, they were now closer than ever to pulling off something that no one had ever dared to attempt. The South Tower crew carried a heavy wire, one that would soon serve a purpose beyond belief. Moving through the dark, every step was slow, every whisper careful. The tension was real. Then, trouble. A guard's footsteps echoed nearby. One team member panicked, later swearing he was high at the time, and bolted, leaving two others behind. With no choice, they hid under a tarp, barely breathing for hours. Petit made a hole in the tarp with paperclip to watch and see if the guard had gone. After a few hours, they were able to move higher into the rooftop. Meanwhile, on the North Tower, few others were equipped with a bow and arrow, but not for any ordinary reason. This was a part of the plan, a bizarre but important tool. They shot an arrow with a fishing line over to the South Tower, where Philippe was waiting with his team. At first, they couldn't find an arrow they needed. Philippe even stripped naked so he could maybe feel the fishing line with his body, but of course that didn't work. Hours ticked by before he finally spotted it, tucked away in the corner of the building. Philippe climbed down, retrieved it, and got back to work. Time was slipping away. They were already 3 hours behind schedule, and now, with only half the night left, they had to work fast. They were gradually attaching heavier and heavier rope and cable until high wire was strung between the two buildings. 130-foot gap separating the towers was now connected by a single wire. The wire had to be secured. Bolts tightened, ropes carefully adjusted. In the dim light, the thin cable stretched between the two towers, barely visible against the dark sky. It looked fragile, like a thread floating above the city. The hours crawled by. Every second was a mix of fear and excitement. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the city remained unaware of what was about to happen. High above the streets, hidden in the shadows, two towers were now connected by a single line of metal. The stage was set, and soon Philippe Petit would step onto that wire, changing history forever. On August 7th, 1974, New York City was waking up, but high above the streets, something unbelievable was about to happen. On the roof of the South Tower, Philippe Petit stood on the edge, staring at the thin wire stretched between two twin towers. The moment had come. No more planning, no more second guessing. Just him, the wire, and the sky. The sun peeked over the horizon, lighting up the city. Philippe took a deep breath, steadied himself, then stepped forward. For a second, everything froze. No sounds, no movement. Just the wind and the pounding of his heart. Then he took another step, and another. Slowly, carefully. He moved across the wire, his body swaying slightly as he found his rhythm. It wasn't just a walk, it was a dance. Unspoken conversation between balance and gravity. Below, the city started to notice. People stopped mid-step, mid-sentence, mid-bite of their breakfast. Cars pulled over, heads tilted upwards. There, against the vast blue sky, was a thin figure, walking between two of the tallest buildings in the world. For 45 minutes, Philippe moved back and forth between the towers, 8 times. With every crossing, he defied logic, fear, and the sheer force of gravity itself. But Philippe wasn't done. He laid down on the wire. He saluted the city. He turned what could have been a catastrophe into a pure art. Then, as if nature itself was trying to end the show, the sky darkened. A light rain began to fall. The wind picked up. The wire grew slippery. Every step became riskier than before. Even then, Philippe pressed on. He wasn't walking for the fame. He was walking for the thrill. He was walking to prove that even in danger, even in the impossible, there is beauty. The world held his breath. And now, with the storm rolling in, one question remained. What would be Philippe's last move? The rain fell harder, the wind howled, the wire trembled beneath Philippe's feet. He had pushed the limits long enough. It was time to end it. At both ends of the wire, the police were waiting. The voices echoed through the sky, ordering him to calm down. They had been watching from the rooftop, ready to act. Philippe took a final, careful step. He had done what he came to do. A few seconds later, he surrendered. As soon as he touched solid ground, the police moved in. They grabbed him, placed him in handcuffs, and led him away. The city buzzed with curiosity. What would happen to the man who danced in the sky? People expected serious punishment. After all, he had broken into a World Trade Center and pulled off something that no one had ever dared before. But instead of jail time, something surprising happened. The authorities made him a deal. There would be no charges if he agreed to perform for children in Central Park. It was a strange punishment, but it showed something important. This wasn't just a stunt, it was art. Now, 50 years later, the world still remembers that morning. Philippe Petit's work wasn't just about skill or bravery. It was about chasing the impossible, about proving that sometimes the craziest dreams are the ones worth following. And his story still inspires artists, risk takers, and dreamers around the world. Because in the end, it wasn't just a walk. It was a moment in history.